Hey guys, how's it going? We just had NVIDIA earnings, so I actually wanted to just jump in on the live stream to see what everybody's thoughts are right now. Let me just get a quick second before for setting everything up. This was more of a last minute thing, so might as well just go with it. So guys, like always, feel free to post on the comments any questions. I just want to take a quick look at what NVIDIA has, how their growth is coming. They just reported earnings. The earnings presentations is in about, I want to say in 30 minutes or so, 20 minutes. 20 minutes from now. So let's just get right on it. Let me make sure I have everything closed that I need to. Don't want to show too much. So let's see. All right. So right now, NVIDIA just reported earnings. So let's take a quick look at how the stock price is doing. NVIDIA stock right now. I want to say right now the company hasn't. I wouldn't expect much movement because earnings call is not till later. About 20 minutes is when earnings call starts. But right now we can see a nice volatility for the stock after hours. But it is up about 0.32%. I did see their numbers already, and they did beat. If we take a look at NVIDIA stock earnings, we can see what they were expecting to have about $6.34 billion in revenue. And if I take a look at their numbers, they actually had record revenue of $6.5 billion. Let me zoom in. So overall, right off the bat, estimations are up on record revenue. And we'll take a quick look at where that growth is coming. But first, they also expected about $1.02 on earnings per share. Let's see what they reported. So they reported about, I don't know if that's non-GAAP. If it is non-GAAP, then they reported at $1.04. I'm going to assume it's non-GAAP right now. So they did beat on non-GAAP earnings. If those were GAAP earnings, they didn't beat expectations. But still, numbers are pretty impressive right now. And give me 1 second, guys. Let me just in case you guys want to talk in chat, let's get this set up. So if we take a quick look at what's happening in their slideshow, right, this is probably the best presentation we get to see. They kind of break down the revenue breakdown. So the gaming segment is up big year over year. I think they mentioned here, let's see. Revenue, the gaming segment, let's take a quick look. I know I have it. So the record gaming segment was up 85% compared to same time last year. So we're seeing strong growth in the gaming market, and that's up year over year and up quarter over quarter. This is one of the main reasons NVIDIA stock price. Aiden, what's going on? So gaming, we can see gaming alone makes up roughly a little bit less than 50% of its total revenue. Data center, I'm actually really surprised about. I kind of talked about it in my videos on things to watch before earnings. I did think data centers would go up. I didn't think it was going to go up by as much as it did. That's over a 10% gain compared to a quarter ago. And I believe I posted on my Twitter account that record revenue up 68% year over year. Record gaming revenue was up 85% year over year. Record data center was up 35% year over year. And like I mentioned, right, I do believe that data center is if anything is going to really drive this company's stock price after earnings outside of their guidance, I want to say is going to be this data center growth. I didn't expect it to be that much. The other thing that I'm actually seeing pretty impressive is professional visualization is actually up really big year over year. So year over year is up over 100%. But not only that, it's also up quarter over quarter by, I want to say that's a nice 30%, 30 to 90, over 30% growth quarter over quarter. So professional visualizations is also up. We can see the auto industry is still not that impressed. It's still pretty much a flat line. Everything else has seen record revenues for the past, I want to say 7 or 8 quarters, except auto. Auto saw record revenues in quarter 4 of fiscal year of 2020. Another thing that I find, I got to do a little bit more information, OEM and others. So OEM and others, I know here they have their Bitcoin, not their Bitcoin, their cryptocurrency mining cards here, and that's the main reason it jumped a whole lot last quarter. I wonder if that's still in there or if they've included something else in this OEM and other, but that's huge growth. So everything except the auto industry has seen record revenues for NVIDIA. I'm really liking, right, overall stock price right now. Like I mentioned, I think right now we're just going to get a lot of volatility until the overall earnings call happens in about 20 minutes or so. But right now, NVIDIA stock price is up 0.86%. It was down. It was down after earnings for a bit. Right now, it doesn't help, right, that the market is kind of bleeding today. But overall, after hours, investors don't seem to be too angry at the moment. Let's take a quick look at what else they mentioned. So this quarter, and for those that are not familiar, right, this quarter, NVIDIA launched their, what's going on, Tim? NVIDIA launched their base command and fleet command. For those that are not familiar, this is NVIDIA's pretty much hardware as a service. So if you are a big enterprise company, instead of building like your own supercomputer, you can kind of just use NVIDIA's product right here, their base command platform, to rent out some supercomputers. So it's more like a subscription as a service, a hardware as a service. They did announce it. They kind of developed it, launched it in the recent quarter. In August, they launched it fully in North America. So I don't think we're going to see too much numbers from that until next quarter. But the NVIDIA base command and fleet command is also pretty awesome. For those coming in, tuning in, NVIDIA just reported a record revenue. For those not familiar, this is my #1 position in my portfolio. I have I want to say it's roughly 10% of my portfolio size right now. We can see NVIDIA killed it in gaming, record revenue on gaming, record revenue on data center. Data center is up over 10% quarter over quarter. This is the one I'm super impressed as well. Professional visualization was up 519%. I'm wondering, I want to see, where are they kind of putting stuff like their Omniverse, which deals with like visualization services? Would that be in professional and visualizations, or does that go on OEM and others? So I have to find out a little bit more where they're putting some of these new software as a services that they have and what kind of segment they're putting into. But regardless, professional visualization is up big. Auto industry is the only industry I would say is not that impressive. OEM and others is up year over year and quarter over quarter. So let's see, what else do they mention. So they are thrilled to announce they launched the Omniverse. That's great. We saw that. NVIDIA, of course, NVIDIA also pays a dividend. Right now, it pays a dividends of 4 cents per shares. I mean, I think this is funny. I always forget that NVIDIA pays a dividend because it's just so small. So let's see what else is going on. Cam Meow, what's going on, Cam? I'm looking for an entry point into NVIDIA. Do you see NVIDIA going to 185? So I could potentially see it, right? Cam, the overall market is very volatile, and we don't know what can happen tomorrow. So volatility is always out there in the market, and yes, we can obviously get better buying opportunities for NVIDIA. At the same time, I just don't know when that would happen. So for me, NVIDIA is already my #1 position. It's already a big position in my portfolio, So at this moment, it's very rare for me to add at these levels, especially if the stock price I feel might be a little bit high compared to normal. If I didn't have a position, I do believe maybe getting some skin in the game, getting a little small position, especially if I can do fractional trading and free trading to just get my skin again in NVIDIA, wouldn't be a bad play for me. But what else? So Him4, what's going on? Him from France. I am impressed as well by data centers revenue. Agree, man. That data centers revenue was probably the biggest. But I don't know if you guys watched that video where I looked at their pre-earnings talk, but that data center was the one I was expecting the most out of it. Evening, what have I missed regarding the results? So 33. Pretty much just taking a quick overlook. I'm seeing a lot more people kind of enter the room. So guys, welcome NVIDIA. Tim, NVIDIA is 7% of my portfolio, but looking to get it into 10%. Nice, Tim. So it's probably one of your top boys up there, right, Tim? Out of curiosity, what percentage is Roblox? Not just out of curiosity. So 33 overall record revenue for NVIDIA. Record revenue in gaming, in data center, in professional visualization, and OEM and others. Up big year over year and up quarter over quarter. The only one that's kind of slacking right now is the auto industry. I think we're still too early for this. This is a market that I believe will grow over time, but eventually will provide some nice returns. I can't believe the professional visualizations is now making more than $500 million. That's insane, right? So now I want to say it's close to 10. It's a little bit like 8%, but now it's about 10% of total revenue kind of comes from this professional and visualizations. This is the market where they're going into like the into and studio animations, into like gaming, people who use like Autodesk, like Unity, that need heavy workload for animations and 3D modeling, construction, engineering. So this is pretty impressive to see this type of growth. I don't know if Autodesk, completely off topic, I don't know if Autodesk has reported earnings, but in my opinion, if we see that kind of, if we saw that kind of returns in NVIDIA right now in the professional and visualization, I do believe Autodesk would also provide some kind of great insight. And Gincast, my apologies. I don't believe NVIDIA would allow, YouTube would allow those types of words in here. But let's see. So right now, NVIDIA right now, as we are talking, great earnings, I believe. After hours, stock price is up 1.6%. The overall presentation doesn't much better, Jinkasa, right? I think YouTube likes that a little bit better. At the end of the day, we still have so much to listen to in today's earnings call. That is not starting till about 10 minutes from now. I don't know if you guys want to listen in to that call with me, or if we just want to take a quick look at this presentation. So NVIDIA, again, they is going back to 800. I'm picking Lambo colors right now. Jinkasa, let me know what color you pick so I don't pick the same color, all right? We can't have matching Lambos. We have to get different colors. Regardless, though, on some serious note, right? NVIDIA does pay a small dividend. I mean, if you are a dividend investor, if you are a dividend, oh my God, Ed, you have to use your burner account still. That's insane. I wonder if it's because someone cursed on earlier on today in the chat. I try to hide it, hoping it didn't make you use your burner account, Ed. But right now, right, if you are a dividend investor, I'm pretty sure you are definitely in NVIDIA paying its 4 cents per share, and that will be paid out about on September 23rd of 2021. This company also did the stock split, right? Stock split. I do believe that's just kind of adding a little bit of excitement to the stock. Revenue, right? Revenue up 68% year over year. It's up 15% quarter over quarter. Gross margins, I mean, we're seeing a nice increase compared to year over year. Small increase or quarter over quarter. I do believe gross margins is one of those things that don't change too much quarter over quarter. So it does seem like that high 64s, mid 60s is where these gross margins are going to stay. I do believe that's because this company is getting really into more of a software and hardware as a service. Let's see what else we can take a quick look at. Some highlights. So NVIDIA achieved progress since the following progress. So gaming second quarter revenue we mentioned was up 85% year over year. They did introduce the GeForce RTX 3080 and 3070. I don't believe they introduced them. I have yet to see one in the wild right now, but that is doing great returns. Let's see what else. Anything crazy in the data center? I think the data center was the best thing, right? Second quarter revenue was up 35% year over year in data center, and their previous quarter was up 16% compared to a quarter ago. So here, okay, I was actually wondering where this company was going to make that base command, which is their enterprise, this supercomputers that they kind of rent out. This is actually going onto the data center revenue. So that's going to be in there. Pretty impressive to know that right now. And this is also crazy. I don't know if you guys were watching my overall, give me the good news, amazing news. Is there any revenue for supercomputers? I want to say HIM4, who's right now, this supercomputer platform, it was kind of a tryout in North America, and that's where they're starting. It was kind of a tryout here in North America during this quarter, not until August 2nd, which is the third, which is actually quarter 3, is when they announced it. They announced it for full production here in the United States. Not full production, but full service here in the United States and North America. So I think this supercomputer revenue, now that I see, I believe now that I know is going to be in this data center segment, I do believe quarter 3 is going to be another strong year for data center in form of quarter over quarter growth for this company. So I also want to see where they put things like another thing, right? I mean, I did a supercomputer. NVIDIA right now, there are the top 500 supercomputers list. Out of the top 500, NVIDIA supports 342 of those top 500. That's insane, including 70% of all new systems and 8 of the top 10. and 35 of the top 40. So right now, I mean, NVIDIA's products are definitely being used on all these supercomputers. What else? Let's see what else they have. I want to see. So, okay. So now this is where I want to, this are two things I now know. So when we first started this video, I was curious about two things. Why did we see that data center growth really big? And why did we see that professional visualization grow really big? We found out that one of the reasons data center is up big quarter over quarter is because in the data center segment, they are now including the supercomputers. And I kind of say the supercomputers is actually called this NVIDIA base command. So this NVIDIA base command is when an enterprise kind of rents out some of the supercomputers. Now, the second thing I was wondering is why professional visualization jumps so much quarter over quarter. This is a record revenue for professional visualization. And now I understand why. If we take a look at professional visualization, they are including Omniverse in here. So the Omniverse, this is going to be more of a software as a service. So because of this software as a service being entered here into the Omniverse, into the professional visualization, it is increasing that revenue quarter over quarter. And I'm happy to see that, right? Because both these, the supercomputer rental and the Omniverse are more of like a service as a service as a subscription. And these type of things usually provide very, very high margins. I do believe those are one of the reasons we're seeing high margin growth on NVIDIA right now. So let's see what else. So the automotive segment is pretty quiet. I do believe we're still pretty early in here. So we haven't really seen much movement there. So I'm already learning a lot. I'm actually happy I did this live stream because I learned a lot about the company already. Let me take a quick look at what else we have. So they already gave us their trend. We looked at that. We looked at their press release. I actually want to take a look at their CFO commentary. So again, for you guys just tuning in, this is your first time here. My name's Jose Najarro. I'm a long-term market investor. NVIDIA is my number one stock, right? I mainly focus on semiconductors. My top two positions right now are NVIDIA and AMD. I do have an educational background, master's degree in electrical engineering. So I really do enjoy looking at these companies. So right now, NVIDIA is like is 10% of my portfolio. I think my top two, NVIDIA and AMD, make up roughly 18% of my portfolio. So I'm super happy. I don't believe it's a one-take-all market. I do believe both AMD and NVIDIA can do their own things in the semiconductor industry. But like we can see, right, if we take a quick look at trends, gaming, everything kind of showed, and I'm sorry for repeating to some of you guys, we're getting a lot new people here on the video, so I just want to share this information. So everything kind of gave us record revenue for NVIDIA. We saw gaming is about $3 billion right now. Record revenue, up quarter over quarter, up year over year. The data center is also up quarter over quarter and year over year, another record revenue. One of the main reasons I do believe data center saw really good growth quarter over quarter is thanks to this platform that they're doing, the SuperPod, which is more of like a super rental for NVIDIA of their supercomputers. Professional visualizations is up quarter over quarter. Main reason for this, I believe, is Omniverse is now entering into this market as well. That is a software as a service. So now let's take a quick look at their overall. So numbers are looking good, strong growth. Up 68% year over year revenue. Net income is up 282%. This company is making plenty of money. Their overall graphics segments is just up 87%. So let's see. Let's see if anybody has any questions right now. No problem, Fei Chen. Thanks, man, for the content. Appreciate the support, guys. Like always, thank you guys for NVIDIA is one of my favorite companies. We can talk about this all day. Calm. Cannabis, I don't think I can say that word, is my top position, but would add NVIDIA as it comes down in price. Calm, agree. NVIDIA, if it comes down in price, this is one I wouldn't mind loading up even more. If it comes, that's Ed. Ed, that's the right move, right? If it comes down in price. Let's take a quick look at NVIDIA right now. I mean, earnings call is now till 3 minutes, but right now the stock price is up 1.7%. Let's take a quick look at what I was looking at. Where was I? So I do want to say OEM. I want to take a quick look at everything right now. All right, so the data center revenue. So data center revenue was up 35%. Sequentially, growth stemmed from both compute and networking programs led by hyperscale customers. So that drew a huge amount. In the professional and visualization, revenue was up 156% compared to the same time last year, with growth led by desktop workshop stations GPUs. I think this is going to be impressive. I think this is showing, we saw great numbers on Unity. I don't know if Autodesk did it already. I don't believe Autodesk Autodesk reported earnings, but because of this growth led by desktop workstations, I do believe we might see an improvement in revenue in Autodesk as well. So please be cautious. NVIDIA is superb, and I hold it, but the current share price is extremely high. Tread carefully. Fraser, right? It all depends on how one looks at the company, right? For sure. If one is looking at this company typically as a PE ratio, for sure, it's super, super high. I think every investor should try to understand where they kind of put NVIDIA in. For me, in forms of short-term volatility, I do believe NVIDIA is at a high price right now. In forms of volatility, right? In forms of a company in 5 years, I don't believe the price is nowhere near where it can be in 5 years. So it all depends on your time frames and where you're seeing the company. So OEM and others is up 180%. This is primarily reflecting growth in CMP. All right, so for those not familiar with CMP, this is their crypto mining products. I believe that's CMP. I don't know if I just made that up. I know it has to do with the crypto mining products. I don't know if that's what CMP stands for. But that's their crypto mining cards, and that has generated $266 million. People are still spending lots and lots of money on mining cards. So the mining game is still going. I do believe this is going to continue to go up, especially as Bitcoin prices, BTC prices continue. I believe it's back to like 40 in the 40Ks right now. Back to volatility. So I do believe we are going to continue to see those strong numbers in the CMP products. Now I think the only real thing I want to take a quick look at, cash. This company has plenty of cash, $20 billion right now compared to $10 billion a year ago and compared to $12 billion a prior quarter. How did this company make so much money? Right, because they have now $20 billion in cash and cash equivalents compared to close to $13 billion a prior quarter ago. We're gonna have to take a quick look at where that money is coming in from, because that's a lot of new cash. That's definitely a lot of new cash. For the overall third quarter, they expect about $6.8 billion in revenue. Remember, this quarter they had what? I forget what was this quarter. Come on, this quarter was 6.5. So they're still expecting crazy, crazy growth quarter over quarter. What else? I agree, Fraser. For price and with Fed meetings today, the trend will be towards south in my techno, so it is better to watch them carefully. Again, right? It all depends, right? It all depends on where you're taking a look at NVIDIA. Again, for short-term volatility can continue to go south, especially with a company like this who's kind of been overextended in the past month or so. So I do agree. I think you can kind of be both bearish and bullish on NVIDIA at the same time. I feel like I'm a little bit more bearish than bullish in the short term of things. I'm a lot more bullish than bearish in the long term of things for NVIDIA, right? So it all depends on your time frame on when you are looking at some of these stocks. So let's take a quick look, and I'm also gonna, earnings call is actually starting, so let's try to pull that up. I don't think we can all listen to it together. Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry guys, my wife just came in for a quick second, so I had to get something. But let's see. I don't think we can. Let's take a quick look at their earnings. Where is the webcast? Audio webcast right now. So first name. Oh man, you guys now know all my information. Which is really I could care less. My name's Jose. My last name's Najarro. So do you guys want me to put the audio on live right now? So you guys want to listen, or do you guys want to listen to on your own and we kind of just discuss what's happening? Feel free to let me know in the comments. Right now I am just listening to their calls. At the moment, they're not really talking much. They're just really sharing the overall disclaimer. Totally agree with you, Jose. In short term, I'm bearish too because I'm happy with my position, but when opportunity arrives, I will add more. For sure, him. That's the real thoughts right now on throw it on. All right, let's see if I can throw it on. Let me see if it works. Hold on. Let me try to set it up here on the stream, guys. Let me know if you once you start hearing it. Hyper speaker right here. All right, you guys should be hearing something in the background. Let me know if you need me to turn it up. All right, right now it's probably pretty low. Calm, Jose, you are the man. No problem. Can you guys hear anything? Is it too low right now? So let me know if you guys can hear the overall presentation right now. I'm seeing nothing on the comments. All right, you guys can't hear anything. Let me try. Let me keep trying. Let me keep trying here. No sound. All right, give me one quick second, guys. I'm just trying. No sound still? Man, you guys are killing me here. Let's see if we can get... Figures are very good. However, action drop supply of graphics cards and chips is still crucial. Marco, for sure. All right, I tried just resetting my stream. Let's see if that works. Because I kind of put it on a last minute. Man, this is insane. Man, you guys still don't hear anything. Lame. Oh, actually, that's true. You're actually right there. Let me actually... Sorry, guys. Let me get this set up. The sound travel that far. Let me see if I can get it out. Hold on, guys. Nah, guys. All right. So I don't think we can hear it. I'm just going to be sharing my overall insights on it then. Feel free to, guys, if you guys have any questions on it, I will be here on the live. Just going to keep talking about it. They had very strong earnings regardless. We saw some strong numbers. Let me just go back to my own audio. But that sucks that I couldn't do that. I got to work on that. Maybe next time. But right now, they're pretty much just talking about their overall revenue growth. Nothing crazy. I don't think anything crazy is going to happen until once we talk about Q&A sections. But let's see. So guys, does anybody have any questions on earnings? So let's see how NVIDIA stock price is doing right now. And if you guys don't know, here is the link. I don't know if I can share it. I can't share it. No, at the moment, him for no news on ARM. Let's see. Let's see if we can farm. They do mention they are working through regulatory process for their pending acquisition of ARM. Although some ARM licensees have expressed concerns or objected to the transaction, and discussions with regulators are taking longer than initially thought. We are confident that the deal and that regulators should recognize the benefits of these acquisitions, its licensees, and the industries. So I do want to say right now, after that, their ARM acquisition, now they seem a little bit less bullish. Before they would say, hey, we're still on track. We believe we're still on track to get this ARM deal, and it's still on track to close. Now they're saying they are confident that the deal is one that regulators would recognize would benefit the world. But it seems that they are a little bit less bullish in this market right now, in kind of the ARM acquisition. I wonder if that's gonna affect the overall stock price. That's how I'm reading it. Maybe someone else might be reading it in another way. But it seems like the ARM acquisition has a little less percentage of it happening now with these kind of regulators. After our stock price is up 2.3%. All right, so it seems like Omniverse hasn't really made much of a revenue impact on the company right now. The automotive section right now. Yeah, automotive segment is down 1% sequentially. It's up 37% year over year. So, okay, that's actually a good point. They do mention that one of the main reasons automotive segment is down is the overall infotainment revenue is down right now, as kind of car sales are kind of decreasing, right? We see a lot of these cars not producing as many vehicles as they are in the past due to the overall shortage in chips, but they are seeing a huge growth in the self-driving segment in the automotive segment. So does anybody have any other questions on their earnings right now? I mean, gaming revenue was up, data center revenue was up, professional visualization was up, OEM and others are up pretty big. So overall revenues, company's earnings are super up right now. Stock right now is up 2.3% after hours. So now they're just talking about the overall customers in the overall NVIDIA Drive platform. They have a lot of trucking companies there. They have a lot of big players like Mercedes right now. Jose, what do you think about Proterra stock? Thank you. So I do have a small position in Proterra, Jose. At the moment, I haven't really followed it with everything that's going on in the market. And the person talking sounds like a robot. Yeah, isn't this their normal person? Fraser, I doubt the ARM acquisition will go through. ARM is fabulous European company. They won't it go through. I think so, Fraser. I think Fraser. I've always been speculative of this ARM acquisition. Is Zoom still a thing, Ed? I haven't heard about Zoom in a long while. Support Microsoft right now is using NVIDIA's A100 GPUs virtual machines, their most powerful virtual machines for supercomputer class AI and high performance computing workloads. I mean, remember, NVIDIA is now becoming more than just a GPU machine. It's becoming a DPU product, and it's becoming a CPU product. This is NVIDIA is definitely going to become, is changing things around. And they're no longer just hardware. They're now a software company at the same time. Hold on, let me change something. Let me try something real quick, guys. NVIDIA should be more than a GPU provider once times arise, but I am confident if ARM acquisition happens, then NVIDIA will be on the throne for years and years. So very true, right? If the ARM acquisitions, I do believe, I mean, with the ARM acquisition, they will have a lot more technologicals, but because ARM is an open source platform, I don't think, I still believe they can do pretty strong without it, right? Because that source of that type of technology is still kind of open source. So now they're talking about the base command platform. Are you guys listening to the call right now too? Face command. Jackie Chan, bit low, 6.8. Let's see. So 6.8 minus 4.7 divided by 4.7. I mean, that's a 44% year-over-year revenue growth, right? I mean, that's still a pretty penny, don't you think, Jackie Chan? I think quarter over quarter is only a 4% growth, a little bit over five, a little bit close to 5%. So quarterly quarter, not much growth. I want to say year over year, still 44% is pretty strong. But I agree, Jackie Chan, it might be a little bit low compared to normal type growth. Yeah, year over year 44%, but quarter over quarter, like you mentioned, it's like 5%. Not that huge of a beat, not that huge of a growth for next quarter. So right now, how's NVIDIA stock price doing? NVIDIA is up 1.8%. I guess investors are still liking the overall presentation right now. I mean, record revenue in almost all segments. They're talking about ARM right now. Hold on, guys. Maybe I think I can get the audio out.
Chrome PCs. We plan to invest in the UK.
I hope it's not too loud. I'm gonna put it down. Let me know if you guys got the audio.
And through ARM, making UK a global center in science, technology, and AI. We are working through the regulatory process. Although some ARM licensees have expressed concerns and objected to the transaction, and discussions with regulators are taking longer than initially thought. We are confident in the deal, and that regulators should recognize the benefits of the acquisition to ARM, its licensees, and the industry. Moving to the rest of the P&L, GAAP gross margin of 64.8% for the second quarter was up 600 basis points from a year earlier, reflecting the absence of certain Mellanox acquisition-related costs. GAAP gross margins was up 70 basis points sequentially. Non-GAAP gross margins was 66.7%, up 70 basis points.
Let me know if it's too loud or too low.
And up 50 basis points sequentially, reflecting higher ASPs within desktop GeForce GPUs on continued growth in high-end Ampere architectured products, partially offset by a mix shift within data center. Q2 GAAP EPS was 94 cents, up 276% from a year earlier. Non-GAAP EPS was $1.04, up 89% from a year earlier, adjusting for the 4-to-1 stock split effective this quarter. Q2 cash flow from operations was a record $2.7 billion. Let me turn to the outlook for the third quarter of fiscal 2022.
All right, let's see this outlook.
We expect another strong quarter with sequential growth driven largely by accelerating demand in data center. In addition, we expect sequential growth in each of our three other market platforms.
So data centers where they're more bullish on right now.
Continuing to exceed supply as we expect channel inventories to remain below target levels as we exit Q3.
The chip shortage is still a thing.
The contribution of CMP to our revenue outlook is minimal.
What just happened?
Revenue is expected to be $6.8 billion, plus or minus 2%. GAAP and non-GAAP gross margins are expected to be 65.2% and 67% respectively, plus or minus 50 basis points. GAAP and non-GAAP operating expenses.
That's a nice jump on their GAAP and non-GAAP earning margins.
$1.96 billion and $1.37 billion respectively. GAAP and non-GAAP other income and expenses are both expected
All right, I
to
could
be
care less about that.
approximately
Putin, so did they beat and will the stock take a dump for no reason? I hope not, but we don't know. Right now, stock price is up 1.6%.
Expected 11%, plus or minus 1%, excluding discrete items. Capital expenditures are expected to be approximately $200 million to $225 million. Further financial details are included in the CFO commentary.
All right, so right now they pretty much just read what we kind of looked at already. So nothing new here. They just kind of talked a little bit about the ARM acquisition, but they talked about it there. Putin, I do want to say, and let me just put that on mute real quick. Putin, let me say, they did buy a lot of chips for their CPM, crypto CMP chips. Did see a nice growth. We can kind of see that here in the OEM and others. It jumped a nice amount.
On September 13, the Piper Sandler Global Technology Conference on September 14th, and the Evercore ISI Auto, Tech, and AI Forum on September 21st. Our earnings call to discuss the third quarter results is scheduled for Wednesday, November 17th.
Wednesday, November 17th.
We will now open the call for questions. Operator, would you please poll for questions?
Thank you. At this time, I would like to remind everyone, in order to ask a question, press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. We'll pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster. And as a reminder,
I mean, I don't know, most of you guys, I normally in
question.
these presentations or these earnings calls, I only
Your
really
first
care about Q&A
question comes from the
section.
line of Vivek Arya.
Because that's the only thing that's really new. Everything else is pretty much just read out through these types of products right here.
I actually had a near and longer term question on the data center. I think near term you mentioned the possibility of accelerating
data center question right now.
5% rate. I was hoping if we could give us some more color around that confidence and visibility. And then longer term, Jensen, we have seen a lot of announcements from NVIDIA about your enterprise software opportunity. I honestly don't know how to model that. It sounds very promising, but how should we model it? What problem are you trying to solve? Is it cannibalizing demand you might have otherwise seen from your public cloud customers, or is this incremental to growth?
This guy's asking him how he should do his work.
Any guidance or any just insights into how to think about NVIDIA's enterprise software opportunity longer term? Thank you.
Yeah, Vivek, thanks for the question. We are seeing accelerated.
Why can't they get better mics?
As we've already reported, that we have record revenues in both hyperscale, cloud, and industrial enterprise this last quarter. And we're seeing accelerated growth. The acceleration in hyperscale and cloud comes from the transition of the cloud service providers in taking their AI applications, which are now heavily deep learning driven, into production. There were several things that we've spoken about in the past that really makes NVIDIA the ideal platform to scale out with. And if my line is a little wordly, let me just apologize. The several platforms, the several elements of our platform. Number one, Ampere GPU, which is now a universal GPU for AI.
You need to get some Zoom phones.
But incredibly good for inference. It's terrific in its throughput. It's terrific in its fast response time as well. And therefore, the cost of deployment, the cost of operating the AI applications is the lowest. The second is the introduction of TensorRT, which is our optimizing compiler that makes it possible for us to compile and optimize any AI application to our GPUs. And whether it's computer vision or natural language understanding, conversational AI, recommender systems, the type of applications that are deploying AI is really quite vast. And then lastly, this software inference server that we offer called Triton, which supports every one of our GPUs. It supports CPUs as well as GPUs. So every internet service provider could operate their entire data center using Triton. These several things are really accelerating our growth. So the first element is the deployment, the transition of deep learning AI applications into large-scale deployment. In the enterprise, the application that's driving AI.
This is what he's talking about right now, NVIDIA Triton.
Wants to move and race towards being a tech company and take advantage of connected clouds and connected devices and artificial intelligence to achieve it. They have an opportunity to deploy AI services out of the edge, and in order to do so, there are several things that have to happen. First, we have to create a computing platform.
I don't think this analyst wanted a hardcore answer like this, but Jensen's always coming in clutch with that.
Environment that they understand, which is virtualized, which is largely managed by VMware, and our collaboration with VMware creating a new type of system that could be integrated into enterprise has been quite a significant effort, and it's in volume production today. The second is a server that allows the enterprise customers to deploy their AI models out to the edge, and the AI engine, the software suite that we've been developing over the last 10 years, now have been integrated into this environment. and allows the enterprises to basically run AI out of the box. There's three elements of our software product there. First is NVIDIA AI Enterprise, and that basically puts all of the state-of-the-art AI solvers and engines and libraries that we've industrialized and perfected over the years, made it available to enterprise license. Second is a operating system platform called Base Command that allows for distributed, scale-up.
So like we mentioned earlier, Base Command is going to go into their data center revenue segment.
For training and developing models. And then the third is Fleet Command, which is a operating system software product that lets you operate and deploy and manage the AI models out to the edge. These three software products, in combination with the server called NVIDIA Certified, taken out through our network of partners, is our strategy to accelerate the adoption of AI by the enterprise customers. And so we're really enthusiastic about entering into the software business model. This is an opportunity that could represent, of course, tens of millions of servers. We believe
NVIDIA becoming a software company.
We believe that enterprises will be deploying and taking advantage of AI to revolutionize their industry, and using quite a traditional enterprise software licensing business model.
Yeah, big bug. That's Jensen.
This could represent billions of dollars of business opportunity for us.
Thank you. Next question comes from the line of Stacy
AI
Rasgon
Jensen.
Jensen's
actually at the beach or something right now.
Hi guys, thanks for taking my questions. I wanted to go back, Colette, to the sequential guidance. You gave a little bit of color by segment. If I look at your gaming revenues, it's kind of like 3 quarters in a row you've been up, call it ballpark 10 or 11%. And my understanding is that was sort of a function of your ability to bring on supply. So I guess, what does the supply addition look like as you're going from Q2 into Q3? And do you think you can still maintain that kind of sequential growth, or does it dial down? Because I also would play that against your other commentary suggesting that the sequential growth, and I assume on a dollar basis, was being driven primarily by data centers. So how do I think about the interplay within those comments of sequential growth of gaming, especially given the trajectory we've had over the last several quarters?
Yeah, so let me start, and I'll let Jensen add a bit, Stacy, to your question. Yes, we're providing the guidance for Q3 of $6.8 billion in revenue. Now, excluding CMP, we expect our revenue to grow over $500 million sequentially. The lion's share of that sequential revenue increase will be coming from data center. We do expect gaming to be up slightly on a sequential basis, but remember, we are still supply constrained. Automotive and ProViz are also expected to be up slightly quarter over quarter.
I'll share my opinions after this once she's finished talking. This is pretty good information.
We'll probably just have minimal amounts in Q3. So our Q3 results don't have seasonality with them for gaming, and are really about the supply that we believe we can have for Q3. We'll see if Jensen wants to add any more color.
All right, so the question there, I don't think Jensen's going to... let's just wait for him.
Thanks for the question. As you know, RTX is a fundamental reset of computer graphics. This is a technology called ray tracing that has been the holy grail of computer graphics for quite a long time, 35 years. And in research, in our NVIDIA research for 10 years, we finally made it possible to do real-time ray tracing with RTX. RTX demand is quite incredible, as you know, we have a large install base of PC gamers. They use an architecture called GTX based on programmable shaders that we invented some 20 years ago. And now we've reset the entire install base. Ampere is off to just an incredible start. It's the best-selling GPU architecture in the history of our company. And yet we've only upgraded some 20%, less than 20% of our total install base. So there's another 80% of the world's PC gaming market that we have yet to upgrade to RTX. Meanwhile,
I'm one of them. I need to get my RTX card.
Grew substantially. Steam grew 20% this last year. And so I think we're right at the beginning of our RTX transition. Meanwhile, computer graphics has expanded into so many different new markets. RTX, we've always believed would reinvent the way that people did design. And we're seeing that happening right now as we speak as workstations is growing faster than ever and has achieved record revenues. And at the same time, because of all of our work with cloud gaming, we now see public clouds putting cloud graphics, whether it's workstations or PC or cloud gaming consoles, up in the cloud. So we're seeing strong demand in PCs, in laptops, in workstations, in mobile workstations, and cloud. And so RTX is really doing great. Our challenge there is that demand is so much greater than supply, and as Colette said, we're going to be supply constrained.
All right, so I thought it was such a great question. So pretty much they were asking, hey, the previous past quarters, and let me just kind of pause that real quick.
Your line is now open.
They were
yes, thank you very much.
They were like, hey, growth is kind of growing at crazy levels back then, over 10% every quarter. But now in quarter 3, you're not expecting much growth in gaming. Why is that happening? And pretty much the only thing that they can say is, hey, we have the demand, but right now the overall chip shortage is really affecting it. So I do believe some investors might kind of take this as a bearish note. I'm just saying right now, if right now they're kind of topped off in kind of gaming revenue, I do believe we're going to see a few red flags here and there for their upcoming guidance. This overall gaming revenue not increasing much this upcoming quarter guidance, I do believe will continue to bring volatility for the market. And I know I kind of muted that, but if someone can give me the question,
sustainable going forward, right now, or do you feel like that mix may change
show me in
as
the
supply
comments.
comes online? Thank you.
So I'll start here. Thanks for the question on our overall mix as we go forward. First, our supply constraint in our gaming business is largely attributed to our desktop and notebook. That can mean a lot of different things, from our components that are necessary to build so many of our products. But our mix is really important. Our mix, as we are also seeing many of our gamers very interested in our higher end, higher performance products. We will continue to see that as a driver that overall lifts both our revenue and can lift our overall gross margins. So there's quite a few different pieces into our supply that we have to think about, but we are going to try and make the best solutions for our gamers at this time.
Thank you. Next question, we have the line from C.J. Muse. Your line is from Evercore. Your line is now open.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon. I guess a follow-up question on the supply constraints. When do you think that they'll ease, and how should we think about gaming into the January quarter vis-a-vis typical seasonality, given I would assume you would continue to be supply constrained? Thank you.
Yeah, so he's pretty much asking is this $3 billion or so for gaming kind of the top for now until supply constraints are kind of fixed?
Go ahead, Jensen, and I'll follow up if there's some other things.
Okay. Yeah, we're supply constrained in graphics, and we're supply constrained in graphics while we're delivering record revenues in graphics. Cloud gaming is growing. Cloud graphics is growing. RTX made it possible for us to address the design and the creative workstations. Historically, the rendering of ray tracing and photorealistic images has largely been done on CPUs, and for the very first time, you could actually accelerate it with NVIDIA GPUs and these RTX GPUs. And so the workstation market is really doing great. The backdrop of that, of course, is that people are building offices in their homes. And for many of the designers and creators around the world, some 20 million of them, they have to create, they have to build a workstation or an office at home as well as the one at work, because remote work is the new norm. And meanwhile, of course, RTX has reset all of our consumer graphics and the few 100 million installed base PC gamers, and it's time to upgrade. And so there's a whole bunch of reasons we're achieving record revenues while we're supply constrained. We have enough supply to meet our second half company growth plans. And next year, we expect to be able to achieve our company's growth plans for next year. Meanwhile, we have and are securing pretty significant long-term supply commitments as we expand into all these different market initiatives that we've set ourselves up for. And so I think I would expect that we will see a supply constrained environment for the vast majority of next year is my guess at the moment.
That's crazy. Until next year, they still believe supply constraints will happen.
RTX is really a once in a generation reset of modern computer graphics. Nothing like this has happened. This is the beginning of computer graphics, and so the invention is really quite groundbreaking, and you could see its impact.
Thank you. Next question comes from the line of Harlan Sur of JP Morgan. Your line is now open.
Good afternoon. Congratulations on the strong results, outlook, and execution. The Mellanox networking franchise, this has been a really strong and synergistic addition to the NVIDIA compute portfolio. I think kind of near the midterm, the team is benefiting from the transition to 200 and 400 gig networking connectivity in cloud and hyperscale. And then I think in addition to that, you guys are getting some good traction with the Bluefield SmartNIC products. Can you just give us a sense on how the business is trending year over year? And do you expect continued quarter over quarter networking momentum into the second half of this year, especially as the cloud and hyperscalers are going through a server and CapEx spending cycle?
So remember, Mellanox is the company they acquired about a year ago?
Mellanox had a solid growth quarter, and the Mellanox networking business is really growing incredibly. There are three dynamics happening all at the same time. The first is the transition that you're talking about. You know that the world's data centers, hyperscale data centers, use this form of computing called disaggregated, which basically means that a single application is running on multiple servers at the same time. This is what makes it possible for them to scale out. The more users for an AI application or a service, they just have to add more servers. And so the ease of scale out that this aggregated computing provides also puts enormous pressure on the networking. And Mellanox has the world's lowest latency and the highest bandwidth and performance networking on the planet. And so the ability to scale out and the ability to provision these disaggregated applications is really much better with Mellanox networking. So that's number one. Number two, almost every company in the world has to be a high performance computing company now. You see that the cloud service providers, one after another, are building effectively supercomputers.
NVIDIA stock up 2% right now.
What historically was InfiniBand and supercomputing centers, the cloud service providers had to build supercomputers themselves, and the reason for that is because of artificial intelligence and training these gigantic models. The rate of growth of network sizes, AI model sizes, is doubling every 2 months. It's doubling not every year or 2 years, it's doubling every 2 months. And so you can imagine the size. We're now talking about training AI models that are 100 trillion parameters.
Agree, Big Buck. They need some better phones and microphones.
The human brain has 150 plus trillion synapses, and so, or neurons. And so that gives you a sense of the scale of AI models that people are developing. And so you're going to see supercomputers that are built out of Mellanox InfiniBand and they're high-speed networking along with NVIDIA GPU computing in more and more cloud service providers. You're also seeing it in enterprises or used in the discovery of drugs. You know, there's a digital biology revolution going on.
That would do amazing, right, Hem?
The computation is able, the large-scale computing that we're able to do now, and AI, better understand biology.
I mean, it's crazy. They actually have software, Yao Ming, that helps the microphones become better than they are. I don't know why they're not using it.
So you're seeing large supercomputers being built in enterprises around the world as well. And so the second dynamic has to do with our incredibly great networking, InfiniBand networking that is de facto standard in high-performance computing. And the third dynamic is data centers going software. In order to orchestrate and run a data center with just a few people, essentially running an entire data center, hundreds of thousands of servers as if it's just one computer in front of you, that entire data center is software defined. And the amount of software that goes into that software defined data center running on today's CPUs is the networking stack, the storage stack, and now, because of zero trust, the security stack. All of that is putting enormous pressure on the available computing capacity for applications, which is ultimately what data centers are designed to do. And so the software-defined data center needs to have a place to take that infrastructure software and accelerate it, to offload it, to accelerate it, and very importantly, to isolate it from the application plane so that intruders can't jump into the operating system, if you will, of your data center, the fabric of your data center. And so that the answer to that is Bluefield, the ability to offload, accelerate, and isolate the data center software infrastructure and to free up all of the CPUs to run what they're supposed to run, which is the application. Just about every data center in the world is moving towards a zero.
One thing I like about Jensen when he talks, he doesn't care about quarter over quarter. He's just talking about the overall growth of the company in the future. And I feel like as a CEO, that's what you need to do. You could care less about next quarter. You could care less about the 2 quarters from now. It's where that growth is going in the future.
High-performance computing, and then lastly, software-defined data centers going zero trust. And so these are really important dynamics, and I appreciate the opportunity to tell you all that. You can just tell how super excited about the prospects of NVIDIA's networking business and the employees that they have in building modern data centers.
Thank you. Next question comes from the line of Aaron Rakers of Wells Fargo. Your line is open.
Yeah, thanks for taking the question. I think you hit on a lot of my questions around the data center in that last month. So maybe I'll just ask kind of on a P&L basis. You know, one of the things that I see in the results, or more importantly the guide, is you're now guiding over 67% gross margin potentially. I'm curious, as we move forward, how do you think about the incremental operating gross margin upside still from here, and how you're thinking about the operating margin leverage for the company from here through the P&L? Thank you.
Yeah, Colette, if you don't mind, let me take that, and if you could just follow up with some of the details, that'd be great. I think at the highest level, I really appreciate the question. At the highest level, the important thing to realize is that artificial intelligence is the single greatest technology force that the computer industry has ever seen, and potentially the world's ever seen. The automation opportunities, which drives productivity, which translates directly to cost savings to companies, is enormous, and it opens up opportunities for technology and computing companies like it's never happened before. And let me just give you some examples. The fact that we could apply so much technology to warehouse logistics, retail automation, customer call center automation is really quite unprecedented. The fact that we could automate truck driving and last mile delivery, providing a automated chauffeur, those kind of services and benefits and products are never imaginable before. And so the size of the IT industry, if you will, the industry that computer companies like ourselves are part of, has expanded tremendously. And so the thing that we want to do is to invest as smartly, but as quickly as we can, to go after these large operating.
Andres, I'm not familiar with DLO, but nice, up 20% after hour.
And in doing so, while doing so, to do so in a way that is architecturally sensible. One of the things that is really an advantage of our company is the nature of the way that we build products, the nature of the way that we build software, our discipline around the architecture, which allows us to be so efficient while addressing climate science on the one hand, digital biology on the other, artificial intelligence, and robotics and self-driving cars.
Jensen really loves to go on his really talking about the overall company. You can tell how excited he is.
And having this discipline now for almost 30 years has given us incredible operating leverage. That's where the vast majority of our operating leverage comes from, which is architectural. The technology is architectural, our products are architectural in that way, and the company is even built architecturally in that way. And so hopefully, as we go after these large market opportunities that AI has provided us, and we do so in a smart and disciplined way, with great leverage through our architecture, we can continue to drive really great operating leverage for the company and for our shareholders.
Stock price up 2.8% right now after reporting a pretty strong earnings.
Thank you. The next question comes from the line of John Pitzer of Credit Suisse. Your line is open.
Yeah, good afternoon, guys. Thanks for letting me ask the question. Apologize for the short-term nature of the question, but it's what I get asked most frequently. I kind of want to return to the impact of crypto or the potential impact of crypto. Colette or Jensen, is there any way to kind of gauge the effectiveness of the low hash rate GeForce? Why only 80% and not 100%? And how confident are you that the CMP business being down is a reflection of crypto cooling off versus perhaps LHR not being that effective? And I bring it up because there's a lot of blogs out there that would suggest that there are, as much as you guys are trying to limit the ability of miners to use GeForce, there are some workarounds.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me start there and answer a couple of the questions about our strategy that we've put in place in this last couple quarters. As you recall, what we put in place was the low hash rate cards as well as putting in the CMP cards. The low hash rate cards were to provide for more supply for our GeForce gamers that are out there. We articulated one of the metrics that we were looking at is what percentage of those cards in Ampere we were able to sell with low hash cards. Almost all of our cards in Ampere are low hash rates, but also we are selling other types of cards as well. But at this time, as we move forward, we're much higher than 80%, but just at the end of this last quarter, we were approximately 80. So yes, that is moving up. So the strategy is in place and will continue as we move into Q3. I'll move it to Jensen here to see if he can discuss further.
Yeah, there's the question about the strategy of how we're steering GeForce supply to gamers.
And after the call, we'll just do a quick recap of earnings, guys.
We moved incredibly fast this time with CMP and with our LHR settings for GeForce. And our entire strategy is about steering GeForce supplies to gamers. And we have every reason to believe that because of the rise in Steam, which is really a measure of gamers, the rate of growth of our steam adoption of Ampere GPUs, there's some evidence that we're successful. But there's several reasons why it's just different this time. And the first reason, of course, is the LHR, which is new, and the speed at which we responded with CMPs to steer GeForce supply to gamers. The second is we're at the very beginning of the Ampere and RTX cycles. As I mentioned earlier, RTX is a complete
Edward, yeah, they did talk about ARM. I'll talk about that after the questions.
Every evidence is that gamers are incredibly and game developers are incredibly excited about ray tracing. This form of computer rendering, graphics rendering is just dramatically more beautiful. And we're at the beginning of that cycle, and only 20% has been upgraded so far. So we have 80% to go in a market that is already quite large, and the install base is quite large, but also growing. Last year, gamers grew 20% in just measured by Steam. The third reason is that our demand is strong and our channel is lean. And you can see that every day with the shortage of supply. As quickly as we're shipping it, there's still big shortages all over the world. And then lastly, we just have more growth drivers today because of RTX than ever. We have the biggest wave of NVIDIA laptops. Laptops is our fastest growing segment of computing, and we have the largest wave of laptops coming. The demand for RTX in workstations, whereas previously the workstation market was a slow-growing market, is now a fast-growing market, and has achieved records. And after more than a decade of working on cloud graphics is in great demand. And so all of these segments are seeing high demand, and we're while we continue to be supply limited. And so I think that the situations are very different, and RTX is making a huge difference.
Thank you. We have the next question comes from the line of Chris Caso of Raymond James. Your line is now open.
This is probably going to be the last question.
Thank you. Good evening.
Close at 6,
my question is about the split between the hyperscale and the vertical customers in the data center business and the trends you're seeing in each. I think in your prepared remarks you said both would be up in the October quarter, but I'm interested to see if you're seeing any differing trends there, particularly in the vertical business, as perhaps business conditions normalize and companies return to the office and they adjust their spending plans accordingly.
Yes, so let me start out with the question, and I'll let Jensen ask the tail. So far with our data center business, with our Q2 results, our vertical industries is still quite a strong percentage. Essentially 50% of our data center business is going to our vertical industries. Our hyperscales make up the other portion of that, slightly below the 50%. And then we also have our supercomputing business with a very small percentage, but doing quite well. As we move into Q3, as we discussed, we will see an acceleration of both our vertical industries and our hyperscales as we move into Q3. With that backdrop, we'll see if Jensen has additional commentary.
There's a fundamental difference in hyperscale use of HPC or AI versus the industrial use of HPC and AI. In the world of hyperscalers and internet service providers, they're making recommendations on movies and songs and articles and search results and so on and so forth. And the difference in the improvement in accuracy that deep learning and artificial intelligence, large recommender systems can provide is really needle moving for them. In the world of industries, the reason why artificial intelligence is transformative, recognizing that most of the things that I just mentioned earlier, it's not really a dynamic in the world's largest industries, whether it's healthcare or logistics or transportation or retail. The vast majority of the reasons why in some of the physical sciences industries, whether it's energy or transportation and such, or healthcare, it is the simulation of physics, the simulation of the world was not achievable using traditional first principle simulation approaches. But artificial intelligence or data-driven approaches has completely shaken that up and put it on its head.
This is the only company that I don't mind if every answer is artificial intelligence and machine learning.
Fusing artificial intelligence so that you could speed up the simulation or the prediction of the protein structure or the 3D structure of proteins, which was recently achieved by a couple of very important networks. It's groundbreaking. And by understanding the protein structure, 3D structure, we understand we can better understand its function and how it would adapt to other proteins and other chemicals. And it's a fundamental step of the process in drug discovery, and that has just taken a giant leap forward. In the areas of climate science, it is now possible to consider using data-driven approaches to create models that but accelerate and make it possible for us to simulate much.
Right, stock price is up 3% right now after earnings. They should be done with the earnings call in a bit. We can just go over the results real quick once this is done.
These are really important fields of work that wouldn't have been possible for another decade at least. And just as we've made possible...
There are a bit yellow flags, a lot of green flags in my opinion though. There's some yellow flags we can talk about.
In every field of science, whether it's climate simulation, energy discovery, drug discovery, we're starting to see the industry recognizing that the fusion of the first principle simulation and data-driven artificial intelligence approaches is going to get a giant leap up. And that is a second dynamic. The other dynamic for industries is for the very first time, they could deploy AI models out to the edge to do a better job with agriculture, to do a better job with asset protection in warehouses, to do a better job with automating retail. AI is going to make it possible for all of these types of automations to finally be realized. And so the dynamics are all very different. That last one has to do with edge AI, which is made possible.
Next earnings, we do a shot every time they say AI in this earnings call.
And right at the point of action, because you need it to be low cost, you need it to be high performance and instantly responsive, and you can't afford to stream all of the data to the cloud all the time. And so each one of them has a slightly different dynamic.
Thank you. Your final question comes from the line of William Stein of Truist Securities. Your line is open.
All right, final question.
Great. Thanks so much for taking my question. Jensen, I'm wondering if you can talk for a moment about Omniverse. This looks like a really cool technology, but I tend to get very few questions from investors about it, but it looks to me like this could be potentially very meaningful technology for you longer term. Can you explain perhaps what capabilities and what markets this is going after? It looks like perhaps this is going to position you very well in augmented and virtual reality, but maybe it's a sort of different market or group of markets.
Omniverse is going to be perfect for engineering, construction, animation, everything.
Maybe help us understand it. I think we'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
I really appreciate the question, and it's one of the most important things we're doing. Omniverse, first of all, just what is it? It's a simulator. It's a simulator that's physically accurate and physically based. And it was made possible because of two fundamental technologies we invented. One of them is, of course, RTX, the ability to physically simulate light behavior in the world, which is ray tracing. The second is the ability to compute or simulate the physics of, simulate the artificial intelligence behavior of agents and objects inside the world. So we have the ability now to simulate physics in a realistic way, and we created an architecture that allows us to do it in the cloud, distributed computed way, and to be able to scale it out to very large systems. So the question is, what would you do with such a thing. This is a simulation of virtual worlds with portals. We call them connectors, portals.
Jackie, this is actually more of a service or something Unity users can use to improve their overall performance. I'll talk about that in a bit, Jackie.
We're partnering with Pixar and Apple to make it even broadly adopted, more broadly adopted. It's called USB, Universal Scene Description. They're basically portals or wormholes into virtual worlds. And this virtual world could be simulating a concert for consumers. It could be a theme park for consumers. In the world of the industries, you could use it for simulating robots, so that robots could learn how to be robots inside these virtual worlds before they're downloaded from the stimulated to the real world. You could use it to simulate factories, which is one of the early works that we've done with BMW that I showed at GTC. Factory of the future that is designed completely in Omniverse, simulated in Omniverse, robots trained in Omniverse, with goods and materials that are its original CAD data put into the factory, the logistics plan like an ERP system, except this is an ERP system of physical goods and physical simulation, simulated through this Omniverse world, and you could plan the entire factory in Omniverse. This entire factory now becomes what is called a digital twin. It could be a factory, it could be a stadium, it could be an airport, it could be an entire city, it could be a fleet of cars. These digital twins would allow us to simulate new algorithms, new AIs, new and optimization algorithms before we deploy it into the physical world. And so what is Omniverse? Well, Omniverse is going to be an overlay, if you will, of virtual worlds that increasingly people call the Metaverse. And you've now heard several companies talk about the Metaverse. We all come from different perspectives. Some of it from social perspective, some of it from a gaming perspective, some of it, in our case, from an industrial and design and engineering perspective. But the Omniverse is essentially an overlay of the internet, an overlay of the physical world, and it's going to fuse all these different worlds together long term. And you'll be able to you mentioned VR and AR. You'll be able to go into the Omniverse worlds using virtual reality, and so you wormhole into the virtual world using VR. You could have an AI or an object portal into our world using augmented reality. So you could, have a beautiful piece of art that you've somehow purchased and it belongs to you because of NFT, and it's only enjoyed in the virtual world, and you can overlay it into your physical world using AI. And so I'm fairly sure that at this point the Omniverse or the Metaverse is going to be a new economy that is larger than our current economy, and we'll enjoy a lot of our time in the future in Omniverse and in Metaverses, and we'll do a lot of our work there, and we'll have a lot of robots there doing a lot of our work on our behalf, and we'll wake up in the morning and they show us the results. And so Omniverse to us is an extension of our AI strategy. It's an extension of our high-performance computing strategy, and it makes it possible for companies and industries to be able to create digital twins that simulate their physical version before.
After this question, guys, we'll take a quick look at earnings and just share our overall thoughts. Feel free to ask questions as well.
Thank you. I will now turn the call over back to Mr. Jensen Huang for closing remarks.
Thank you. We had an excellent quarter fueled by surging demand for NVIDIA computing. Our pioneering work in accelerated computing continues to advance graphics, scientific computing, and AI. Enabled by NVIDIA accelerated computing, developers are creating the most impactful technologies of our time, from natural language understanding and recommender systems to autonomous vehicles and logistics centers, to digital biology and climate science research, to metaverse worlds that obeys the laws of physics. This quarter, we announced NVIDIA Base Command and Fleet Command to develop, deploy, scale, and orchestrate the AI workloads that run on the NVIDIA AI Enterprise software suite. With our new enterprise software, wide range of NVIDIA-powered systems, and global network of system and integration partners, we can accelerate the world's largest industries as they race to benefit from the transformative power of AI. We are thrilled to have launched NVIDIA Omniverse, a simulation platform nearly 5 years in the making that runs physically realistic virtual worlds and connects to other digital platforms. We imagine engineers, designers,
stock price up
even
2.7% after hours,
connecting to Omniverse to create digital twin simulated worlds that help train robots, operate autonomous factories, simulate fleets of autonomous vehicles, and even predict human impact on Earth's climate. The future will have artificial intelligence augmenting our own, and the metaverse augmenting our physical world. It will be populated by real and AI visitors and open new opportunities for artists, designers, scientists, and even businesses. A whole new digital economy will emerge. Omniverse is a platform for building the metaverse vision. We're doing some of our best work and most impactful work in our history. I want to thank all of NVIDIA's employees for their amazing work and the exciting future we are inventing together. Thank you. See you next time.
All right, guys, that seems to be the earnings call. Let's just take a quick recap of what happened. I do want to mention a few things that I got from that earnings call that are pretty interesting for sure. So first, right off the bat, right, NVIDIA earnings, I do believe for the quarter were super strong. Investors right now do believe the same thing. Stock price right now is up 2.86%. At the same time, after hour prices can really just fluctuate like no tomorrow. The real answer is going to be how the market is doing tomorrow and how investors think of this earnings tomorrow. But we can see right now, Jose, NVIDIA should acquire Palantir too. Or that's actually I've never thought about that, but it doesn't seem far-fetched either at the same time, right? It especially as they are I'm not saying it's gonna happen, it doesn't seem far-fetched though. But let's see, let's take a quick look at earnings. So right off the bat, let's start off with revenue breakdown. So $6.5 billion in revenue. This company was up, let's see how much amount, year over year and quarter over quarter in revenue. So revenue was up 68% year over year and 15% quarter over quarter. So strong returns here. They are mainly driven by this strong gaming growth, right? Gaming growth saw record revenue, grew another over 10%. Data center grew over 10% as well. Professional visualizations also grew high. The overall demand for high performance, I want to say desktops, workstations has increased dramatically, they talking, which really drove this professional visualization up. One of the major red flags, someone was mentioning here, is OEM and others. Here you kind of have this company's crypto mining products, and that didn't see the type of growth that it was expected. I honestly could care less, but we can see NVIDIA's chips products, CMP, lowered sales at $266 million compared to $400 million the company predicted in May. Obviously, this is going to be very volatile with everything happening in the crypto market. Again, it's something that's going to affect the company to some extent, but at the end of the day, I don't see this being a long-term product for the company, depending on how crypto continues to go. So they do mention, and I do believe another yellow. So the first yellow flag I want to say is this company mentioned that for the upcoming quarter, they're only expected to grow up to 6.8 billion. So if we take a look at guidance right now, guidance for the company, they expect $6.8 billion in revenue. Year over year, that's about a 44% year over year growth. So that's super strong. I do believe the biggest yellow flag here is that quarter over quarter growth on guidance is only about 4.5%, 4.6% on quarter over quarter. Unfortunately, they say the main reasons for this kind of slowdown in here is that the gaming revenue segment, they don't expect much growth anymore here because they do have they do have supply constraint. So the overall semiconductor shortage is finally kind of really taking a huge impact in the gaming market. So they don't believe they're going to grow much in this revenue segment for the upcoming quarter. I do believe that's going to be a yellow flag. And this kind of constraint is doing in forms of laptops, in forms of desktops. When they were kind of talking about this, I kind of put this in the back of my mind as this is actually good news for AMD as well, because AMD might have not been grabbed. Maybe some stores out there might not be grabbing AMD right now because they're really focusing on NVIDIA's products, NVIDIA's laptop. But if NVIDIA can't kind of deliver on some of those companies, on some of those laptops, on some of those desktops, some of these retail stores might go, hey, AMD, we actually need a little bit more laptops from you. We actually need a little bit more desktops from you. Can we get some more orders? So I do believe in the long term, in the short term, it could help boost up AMD if kind of the overall supply strain is really going to be impacting NVIDIA and these types of gaming revenue. At the same time, they do say this kind of supply constraint is going to be, Jensen believes is going to be here to stay until the next year. So unfortunately, I want to say that might be some of the yellow flags. Some investors might be like, okay, we're not seeing that type of growth in the upcoming years. Even though we just started the quarter, we just finished this quarter, now I'm pretty curious to see how gaming segment is going to do in the upcoming quarters. In regards though, instead of gaming, NVIDIA has kind of produced a lot more products, and I believe this is super smart. They produced a lot more software company products. So here, right, they're making a lot of more data centers. They mentioned the Omniverse. The Omniverse is going to be more of a subscription as a service. They mentioned the overall Face Command, right? The Face Command is going to be more of a hardware as a service, so a subscription. So they're adding a lot more subscription services that are going to kind of help offset this kind of decline in kind of the gaming segment. So I do find that pretty bullish. At the end of the day, this company also has plenty of cash. The company ended this quarter with about $20 billion in cash and short-term investments. Let me pull that right up real quick for you guys. Let's see, where do we have that? They mention it here. Where do it? Balance sheet. So right now they're ending with about $20 billion in cash for the quarter. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's up almost 100% compared to the same time last year. And it's up almost $7 billion compared to a quarter ago. So this company is building up a nice amount of cash right now. The year-on-year, obviously they do reflect the $5 billion of debt issuance proceeds and free cash flow generations. Overall, the company has plenty of balance sheet. I wouldn't be surprised if this company makes some other form of acquisitions in the near future. I honestly can't see of anything right now. I didn't know about Mellanox until they acquire it, but something small like that, maybe a company in less than $10 billion. I wouldn't be surprised if in the upcoming 2 quarters, they make some more acquisitions to improve their software as a service and artificial intelligence market. They also did talk a bit about the ARM acquisition. I do want to say right off the jump, with all that cash, right, Ed? I believe that I do want to say with all this, in previous earnings call, whenever they talked about the ARM acquisition, they seemed a little bit more confident that, hey, regulators are going to agree with it. It's still progressing in the same time frame. Today's earnings call, I feel like leadership was a little bit less bullish on the case. Right now, they kind of mentioned that, hey, they believe regulators would recognize that this would benefit the industry, but they didn't give that reassurance that they're still kind of going with that same timeline. So I do believe it is that timeline, the acquisition. Now, after listening about today's earnings, I do believe the acquisition has a lower chance of it happening. So I do believe that the ARM acquisition having less oomph to it, and the overall yellow flags of supply constraint, I believe, are the biggest yellow flags this company saw this quarter. Regardless, NVIDIA did not say anything for me to be any fearful for the next 5 years. At the same time, I still am, I want to say, in the short time frame, within the next, I want to say 0 to 5 months, I am a little bit more bearish on NVIDIA stock price than bullish, right? The overall volatility is still pretty up there for NVIDIA. So in the short term, I am bearish in NVIDIA in form of price action. Just because I say that bearish, I just mean it's probably going to trend a little bit down. I have no crystal ball. In the long term of things, I'm thinking about 5 years. The price we're at right now, $190, market cap of $475 billion. I have, this is pretty much one of those companies that I believe in five years can easily double that market cap based on their overall growth. So if anybody had any questions on NVIDIA's earnings or just want to discuss, not even questions, just share your overall opinions, I would love to hear what you guys enjoyed about the earnings, what you guys hated about the earnings. Bear cubbish. That's actually probably the better right? Bear cubbish is just bear in the short term or in the younger time frame, right? So that's actually what's going on, Big Buck. I know I saw you earlier. I didn't get too excited. I did a little bit later live stream just so you can come on. But happy to see you, Big Buck. But let's see. Palantir's mission is making the digital twin of organizations, and now Jensen sees NVIDIA too in the same direction. The potential of NVIDIA as AI company is massive. And one thing I do enjoy, right? It's so impressive when some of these. I really enjoy when a CEO or whoever's leading the company, when they talk about the company, they don't talk about it in the short term of things, right? Jensen, I don't think in any of his questions, he went on, I want to say, a rant and talked for like multiple minutes, and none of it answered any short-term answers. It was more of long-term answers, and that's where you can just see this is a CEO that doesn't really care about short-term price movement of the stock. He just wants to make his company better and better, and that's why I forget who the lady was, but the lady would try to interrupt Jensen during the earnings call because she was more of answering more in the short term of things and answering more of like the financial questions. So that's very interesting. Their profit margins is still absolutely insane low. I love that. I mean, their gross margins, I mean, plenty of cash, right? We can see, let's take a quick look at their non-GAAP margins. So quarter two, let's see. GAAP gross margins are 64.8%. I mean, just on gross margins are pretty high. I want to see if they share their net income margins. I don't think they did. They really much don't. But we can see out of revenue this quarter, they had $6.5 billion. Net income was $2.3 billion. So let's actually take a look at non-GAAP. So this company made $6.5 billion in revenue, non-GAAP revenue this quarter, and net income of 2.6. That's insane. That is profit margins of what, 40% at all. So overall, like Ed said, their profit margins are insane, and this is insane for a tech company. And now that they are becoming more of software providers as well, I do believe it's gonna it's gonna continue to increase those net income margins. So Jackie Chan, let's see what else. Star Buccaneers, finally caught you on the live stream, doing good at work, but sneaking in to check out your stream. Thanks, Big Buck. Appreciate the support. I only had 40% success rate of NVIDIA acquiring ARM. So question, Big Buck, after today's earnings, do you still have that 40% success rate, or is it a little bit higher? Is it a little bit lower? Jackie Chan, you mentioned, is the Omniverse a big deal? So the Omniverse is pretty interesting, right? So Unity. This is, let's say you are a game developer. If you are a game developer studio, you're using softwares like Autodesk Maya. You're using software like Unity. Autodesk Maya, for example, is one where you kind of create 3D modeling. Let's see, where you do kind of 3D modeling. Once you kind of create that 3D model, you then put it into Unity's platform and kind of make some form of animation with it. And that kind of takes time. You got to wait for someone to build something and kind of do something. With the Omniverse, it allows you to kind of work together at the same time, which I do believe will improve the overall time of animations, of videos being created in form of animations, of video games being created. So Jackie Chan, I do believe the Omniverse is going to provide strong returns for the company. I can see big companies like EA Games, Take-Two Interactive, Activision's, a lot of video game animation company, a lot of cartoon animations like Disney, whoever, Nickelodeon, I don't know who else makes this, Netflix originals, who uses their Netflix originals, they will be using Omniverse and be paying as a subscription base. So I think it's going to be, I think NVIDIA is creating so many products as a subscription-based product that as one products, they're not going to be a crazy revenue, but all these products add up to each other. They will make a huge change in the overall company's bottom line numbers and overall increasing the company's profit and gross margins. I think any subscription-based business model from NVIDIA is a big deal, and the Omniverse is the same. Agree, right? I mean, they have the NVIDIA's Drive simulations. So guys, I am gonna go now work on this video for NVIDIA. That video should probably be about 10 minutes long of me just explaining my thoughts. I thank you guys for coming into the live stream. Appreciate the support. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Maybe I should actually do some more of these live streams on some of my favorite companies, because we did have a nice turnaround and I actually learned how to put now audio on the stream. So guys, thank you for coming by. Take care. See you next time. And I'm actually on tomorrow at around 10 p.m. 10 a.m. Eastern time if you guys want to make it. Take care, guys. Peace out and see you.